The purpose of this video is to walk you through part 4 of your writing portfolio reflection. Once you've finished part 4, you'll be ready to move on to outlining your writing portfolio letter, which will be the written version of all of this reflection and will be sent to your sophomore English teacher. Here we go, part 4. First, actually, I'm going to make sure that I have the student exemplar pulled up, just so I can get a different perspective on how another student would approach it and get a sense for what Ms. Kim's expectations are. Okay, so here I am, part 4. Part 4 is very important. It's a very particular and specific type of reflection, and you'll use these ideas that you develop in part 4 in your writing portfolio letter. Part 4, needs and gets, directions. This year you discovered and reflected on the unique things you need as a writer to do your best work. Everybody has a different writing identity or writing personality. So consider things like physical environment. Maybe you work better with bright lights. Maybe you work better with low lights or no lights. Maybe you work better when you feel like no one can see your screen. Maybe you feel that you work better when people are giving you feedback on your writing pretty much as you're writing. Maybe writing at school versus outside of school, and where do you feel like you can write outside of school? Does that space look quiet? Does that space look like there's some background noise going on that helps you to focus? For me personally, I like working in a place where I can people watch. So I can observe other conversations that are going on, but I don't take part in them. I also like conversations that are kind of lower in volume. It's hard for me to focus if there's too much conversation happening outside. I also like working indoors as opposed to outdoors. So that's an example of physical environment. That'll be different for every single student. Noise level, so music, do you work better with music or without music when you're writing? For me, I find that it helps. It actually doesn't help because I start focusing more on the music and not on the writing. So depending on who you are, what kind of writer you are, that'll be different. Voices, or do you want silence, complete and utter silence? There's also extra time. Maybe you have consistently found that you needed an extension all throughout the year pretty much, and that you worked better when you had extra time. So maybe that's something that you need to think about for sophomore year, that you'll need to continue to ask for extensions and ask for them in advance. Maybe you also received some outside support, whether that was from Ms. Figueroa, Ms. Drage, Ms. Crawford, Ms. Kim, your peers, maybe even other people. And maybe you needed to talk a lot about your writing and get a lot of feedback before you were able to revise or present your best writing. That leads us to multiple drafts. Maybe you worked better when you worked on a rough draft, left it for a day, came back to it with fresh eyes and did some editing. Or maybe you're just someone who writes all in one sitting and you're done. And then F, getting your ideas figured out before you start writing. Maybe outlining is really important to you, that you need to have everything pretty much detailed and ready to go before you write something. Maybe an outline's not really important to you. Maybe you figure things out as you're writing. G, time to discuss ideas before writing. So if you're a verbal learner, or if you're a verbal kind of processor, that means you need time to discuss ideas before you settle down to write anything. So if you feel like you can't come up with good commentary when you're just working independently, but you need time to discuss ideas before you come up with something meaningful to say or a good theme, this would apply for you. So there are all these different types of criteria that make up your specific writing personality. These things make a very specific part of how you write successfully or how you write unsuccessfully. It's important that you know this about yourself and you can communicate this to your sophomore English teacher so that they can make sure you get what you need. So below you're going to list out 3 of the things that you decide that you need to write successfully. And you're not going to write this in just bullet points. You're going to write this in multiple sentences. using specific evidence. You're going to say something like, for the poetic analysis essay, that's for a particular assignment, I was really struggling with my ideas, but instead of asking for an extension, I just kept procrastinating on my essay. The night before it was due, I realized I wouldn't be able to finish in time and I had to turn it in late. This made me realize that when I'm really struggling with my ideas, I need to ask for help beforehand. So this is a lesson that you learn the hard way, which is fine because you learned it in freshman year and you don't have to make the same mistakes in sophomore year. But now I know that I probably need an extension and I need to ask for extensions or outside support before it's too late. So here's how I'm planning to get it. I know I need something. Here's how I'm planning to get what I need for next year in English 2, so I can avoid those same mistakes. Next year, when I get stuck with my ideas, I won't hide from the teacher or procrastinate out of fear. Instead, I will email the teacher for help as soon as I feel stuck. I will also make sure that I figure out my ideas before I start typing because from my experience, typing without having thought through your ideas does not help at all. You end up having to delete what you wrote because it doesn't make sense. So this column is for the things that you know you need. Here's how you're planning to get what you need. You should read through all of the student exemplar, all the needs, all the gets, just in case you empathize with something or you really agree with something and you want to use that as part of your needs and gets. This is the end of part 4. Once you're done with part 4, click Turn In. You'll be ready for the next step of our writing portfolio project.